What's good, folks, and welcome to a playoff victory edition of the Cover One Film Room. I am one of your two hosts on this evening, Anthony Prohaska, joined tonight by Mr. Eric Turner.
Yes,
All business
let's do it.
tonight in this show. Speaking of business, we are sponsored by Nickel City Cigars, one of the best in the business when it comes to the cigar game. We're going to talk about that a little later as we talk about their fine products. But Eric, man, we are in playoff mode as a brand because the
Yes.
Buffalo Bills are in playoff mode. But this first playoff game against the Miami Dolphins did not turn out the way most fans, I would say, expected, and also didn't turn out the way most fans wanted it to. And we sit
Yeah.
here on this Tuesday night, 2 days removed from the Buffalo Bills playoff victory in the super wild card round against the Miami Dolphins. And there is a lot of consternation and worry and frustration in the minds of Bills Mafia, particularly around the offense. Ken Dorsey, Josh Allen, some of the pass catchers, play calling, the efficiency pieces, the deep shots, the offensive line. There are all
Yeah.
these thoughts and worries, and some rightfully so. And that's where we're going to go in the direction tonight for this episode, Eric. Really looking at this Bills attack against the Miami Dolphins, why it happened the way it did, what Miami did to force that, why the Bills were doing what they were doing, and how Josh Allen and the Bills, really overcame that relentless attack from the Miami Dolphins and were able to grind out a win.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like the game started out, they got up a few possessions, and you're like, okay, all
Here we
right. Now I
go.
could see why Vegas kind of predicted this. All right, okay, all right. And then of course, that divisional game, third game of the year kind of settled in. Like some of the tendencies started to show up on both sides of the ball. Whether it's just formational tendencies, play concepts, turnovers, things just started swinging. Momentum started swinging,
Yeah.
and it's playoff football. Like you got to expect that. Beasley said in his
Yeah.
presser, like you got to expect that. That's normal. But I don't think Bills fans were ready for that, and that's fine.
No.
It's all right. It was a roller coaster ride. There's no doubt about it. Like my wife is usually pretty chill watching the game with me. She was invested. I mean, I'd say the Chiefs game, the 13-second game was a game that when Gabriel Davis scored that touchdown, she literally ran across the room, jumped in my arms like we were celebrating.
Man, that's so beautiful.
And then obviously we were crushed.
Yeah, we were destroyed.
It was this type of game. And like my wife's like, you know what? That was stressful. I hope the rest of the season, the rest of the playoffs isn't like that. Go, don't get your hopes up and definitely don't hold your breath. It's fun, guys. Like it's fun. You got to ride the wave. We're as fans, you don't want your team riding that wave and roller coaster, but as fans, just enjoy the ride. This is fun football. We're playing in January, and hopefully further into January and into February. And it's just something you guys as fans having, us being guys that were had to go through that 17-year drought. Like I'm just happy that this winning has been sustained and we're able to play this time of the year.
I am too. Like there's obviously now that you're here, you want this team to achieve what you think that they can achieve and what they're built for. Like when they first made the playoffs against the Jaguars, it was like, okay, cool. Like we're just happy to be here. But now at this point, as you get to that level of sustained success, further expectations come for the team from the fan base. I think we're starting to get to that point, I'm starting to get to that point, but I'm still, very much like, I just remember being full into draft mode in this time as a little kid, just being like, oh, who are the Bills going to get to turn around the franchise? And I was like,
right.
every single
I was
year.
already studying for the Senior Bowl, which is what the shirt we have on right here. Like
I
was already, studying for those prospects. Right. And I'm way behind. I know I'm okay with that.
Right. Because we got Bills playoff football. Yes. And it's such a beautiful thing. And, to piggyback off something you said, this was something that I mentioned on Disguised Coverage last week, and I've been saying on Twitter. I recognize the Skylar Thompson piece, and it's a quarterback-driven league and so on and so forth. But you were playing a division opponent for the third time. Yeah. Look I don't think it's any coincidence that the Ravens and Bengals went through a similar thing, because you're playing a division opponent again for the third time. Not to mention, Ravens and Bengals just played last week. The Bills and Awesome. Ned is always awesome. Glad that he's here. And he says, "Hey, Ant and Eric, glad to be here. Just would like to see them play to their potential." And I think that's the point, right? Everybody thinks that potential and that ceiling is high and is there. And I don't think they necessarily played to their full potential against Miami, but it's hard to beat down a division opponent, especially one that you just saw a few weeks ago, especially one that, granted, the Bills probably should have won in week 3, and the Bills have had success against Miami in the past and so on and so forth. But Miami's put a good defensive game plan together this year against the Buffalo Bills in terms of their variation.
Year in and year out.
Yes. Everything that they do. When Josh Allen and the Bills offense has had success against Miami, it's because they've legitimately earned it. Like, they've beat them. Like, Miami has put together game plans that the Bills have had to overcome. And even if your division opponent is terrible, seeing any team 3 times in 1 year makes life hard for you. And I think that was part of what we also saw this past week. We saw a defense in the Miami Dolphins who were familiar with what the Buffalo Bills were going to do, what Josh Allen likes to do in terms of his scrambles, what they're going to run in what situation. And that's not because the Bills are predictable and the Bills are terrible. Right. That's just what happens when you play a team for the 3rd time in a year. Like, there's that level
and you got to think about this, right? Like, we always talk about setting game plans and how in the offseason, that blueprint is kind of started, right? You'll get an idea. Okay, they play a 4-3 defense. They play an over defense. This is what has worked in the past against it, whether it's by us or other teams. Carl, let's see here. We'll get you pulled up.
Awesome.
Thank you, Carl. We appreciate it. He says, I want to ride the wave of the Bills winning 50-0 for each of the next 3 games. No drama. No heart palpitations, no need for HBP medication.
If only it were that easy. Just straight coasting to victory. Just put your feet up and you just sit and enjoy. If only.
Yeah, I know. I wish. But again, it's fun, guys. Like, you got to have fun with this. Because, you know what? Who knows? In a few years from now, maybe it's not this fun, So, no. So, like I said, in the offseason, you have like specific templates, a general template, how you want to attack a team. And so certain things have worked against Josh Allen, and this defense is one of those schemes that has worked really well. We always talk about it every time we play the Dolphins. We always talk about how well they scheme Josh Allen. And so all offseason, when you're the returning AFC division winner, your division rivals are going to study you like no other. They want to win the division. Every coach, they start with that. They always say, you got to win your division. And so, Jordan, we appreciate you, man. He says, love the film room, guys. Favorite play was Tremaine leveling Ahmed.
He leveled Ahmed. It was beautiful.
I'm sorry. We don't have that play tonight. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but Anthony and I did break that play down on Twitter. So go ahead and take a look at that later. It was amazing. He set the tone. And on the very next play, it was dope too, because they tried throwing a little hook or curl to Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson, you could see him clench a little bit. He's like, here comes Tremaine. Tremaine broke it up.
Splash play Edmonds.
Yeah. So it's something that you got to think about it. Boyer, the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins, he schemed up really well versus Josh Allen the last few years. And he has a whole offseason to, again, try to take down the king. And for all of the stuff that they did well against Josh Allen and how this scheme always gives Josh Allen fits, sacks, turnovers, Josh still owns the Dolphins. So keep trying. But when you swing, you got to take down the king, and they haven't yet. I want to talk about, this is a perfect segue because we're talking about game plans and mindset. We want to add context to why the Bills were so aggressive, right, Ant? We want to talk about it. So in order to do that, we got to kind of frame Dorsey's mind going into this game and curating that, that game plan. And so when we start with SIS stats, we start with simple things to the bottom of the screen here. Let me bring them up. The defensive side of the ball. Zoom in a little bit. So we'll look at some of what their tendencies are, right? Anthony, one of the big ones to take a look at, because you see a lot of 1s and 4s here. Basic defensive tendencies. Stacked box, usually 4th, 29% usage. That's important for a lot of those situations later in the game when fans were like, hey, why don't you run the ball to run out the clock? So keep that in mind when we get to the film. Keep all these things in mind when we get to the film. 1 high shell prior to the snap, 65% of the time. Oh, so you're going to show single high looks versus Josh Allen? I wonder why the Bills took so many deep shots. Other thing, man coverage, right, Ant? 35% of the time. That's top 10, ranked 6th. Middle of the field close. Again, single high coverages. A lot of those cover 1s. Cover 0s aren't showing here. But 56% of the time, they're playing a single high type look. That's second ranked in the league. And then the blitz percentage, and we're going to talk some more deeper stats and advanced stats about that. But look at the blitz percentage here. According to SIS, it's 35%. According to True Media, it's a little higher. But Ant, this kind of sets the stage for why Ken Dorsey and Josh Allen wanted to be aggressive, especially when you compare the week 3 matchup where the Dolphins used a similar game plan and Josh Allen torched them when they blitzed them, versus that 17% blitz rate in that week 15 matchup where, you know, Josh actually played quite well in that game too. So it's funny how this third game shook out, but they went back to that aggression, right?
They did, and this is actually a very timely comment from Bob Shaw. Bob Shaw says the Bills took what the defense was giving them. It just happened to be the deep ball this week. So Miami, it's pretty simple. You mentioned it in that week 15 game.
Yeah,
Miami was less attack-minded. The most attack-minded they were really was just the man coverage with that spy coming down from the second or third level.
right.
Sometimes it was Javon.
A
lot of times it was Holland a lot. It might be the other safety. It might be, you know, a linebacker to try and confuse him, but they used Holland a lot in that regard. This week, in that wild card round, what Miami was giving the Bills, and Eric, you showed it, the single high coverages pre-snap, paired with the single high coverages post-snap, paired with the man coverage, paired with the blitz look. Where the Bills were attacking, that's where the vulnerabilities were in the Miami Dolphins defense. Ken Dorsey said it early on in the offseason and during the preseason a bunch, that he said things in his pressers that gave us the indication that the Bills' game plan from week to week would be based on the weaknesses and the vulnerabilities of their opponents. So you might see more deep shots one week. You might see in week 1 against the Los Angeles Rams when they're playing a ton of off coverage. And so Dorsey and Allen were just like, cool, we're just going to dink and dunk all the way down the field and expose you underneath. Or what the Bills did in week 2 against the Tennessee Titans, where it was nothing but glance route RPOs for a majority of the early part of the game, because that's what the Titans were giving up. Ned, you're awesome. Again, thank you for being here, and thank you very much for the super chat. And Ned says, did Boyer use Dorsey's tendencies against him by baiting him into deep throws in inopportune times? No, I see you shaking your head already. No. So what Miami was doing at their core, they were going to attack this Bills offense. It was very risk reward. They were either going to get pressure.
Why? I mean, it's complementary football, right? Well, exactly. You got to think about it. You got to have an aggressive game plan on the defensive side with the quarterback you have on the other side. You have to press.
Exactly.
Things.
You're trying to generate explosive plays with your defense because, no disrespect to Skylar Thompson, you're probably not going to generate explosive plays on your offense. That aspect of their team was significantly lowered once Tua went down and Skylar Thompson became the quarterback. So what Boyer and that Dolphins defense was doing in this game, they were trying to generate sacks, generate negative plays, turnovers, tackles for loss, anything and everything. And they were going to go out swinging. It was risk reward. They were either going to give up a 50-yard completion, or they were going to get a sack, or they were trying to get a strip fumble on Josh Allen, which they did, and it led to a touchdown. That's what they were going for in this game. And when you go for that, and we're going to show it in the film, where are those vulnerabilities? The deep part of the field. If you're in single high coverage, where are the vulnerabilities? In the numbers and outside. Like, that's where they were able to attack consistently, and they did it. And they were just off with a couple execution pieces, whether it was Josh Allen, whether it was pass catchers coming down with the ball, whether it was some offensive line protection issues and just not holding up quick enough long enough. At the end of the day, the game plan was based off of who Miami is and what Miami was doing.
Exactly.
And the opportunities were there. The Bills just didn't execute, which again, last thing, ties into what Miami was doing, because all those areas that the Bills could attack Miami deep and down the field, in theory, those are lower percentage throws. So that's what Miami's going for. Like, live by the sword, die by the sword. We're either going to get you or you're going to get us. And that's how we're going to play, because that's how we think we can win the game, given the limitations we have on offense with Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, and I agree. Ned, we kind of led the show off with those stats. That's who they are. And they had to be that. They had to use that game plan versus the week 15 game plan, again, because of the injuries they had along the offensive line, at quarterback, at running back. There was a lot, against them on the offensive side of the ball. They were going to have issues putting up points, and they did get some, but there's some other stuff baked into that, the offensive turnovers.
Exactly. So, the defense set their offense up for success.
Exactly, in short field. So that is who they are at the core. Now, you heard Dorsey in the presser today talk about, they want to be smart, not conservative. That's been the mantra since he's taken over. Smart, physical, discipline, smart, not conservative. Well, I mean, we showed you some of the stats on why they attacked it. Well, take a look at some of these stats, courtesy of True Media and our new analytics guy. He's joining the team today, actually, and he came out swinging with some of these stats. Andrew Stasel put this together, and he's a guy that we want you to follow on Twitter. He's part of the new, he's part of the Cover One team now at Statistics on Twitter. So let's take a look at this. We saw some of the SIS numbers, but let's take a look at some of their blitz tendencies and effectiveness. So Miami blitzes at the third highest rate at 40.2%. Third highest rate in the league. But even though they blitz a lot, it doesn't mean that they're effective. They have struggled to bring pressure and convert those blitzes into sacks and pressures for that matter. They were ranked 14th coming into this game, 14th in pressure rate percentage at 42.5% when they blitz. So yeah, you're blitzing a lot, but you're not always getting home. You're not always creating pressure. All right. So again, this is their identity. And yet it's not all about those pressures when they blitz. So they were 11th in quick pressure percentage at 33.4%, which means that they're getting pressure early on in the play. So anything 2.5 seconds or below. So again, kind of, I don't know, just a little outside of top 10, nothing crazy. But this is a surprising one to me when I put my theory to a test today and really had Andrew look up some of these stats. They had a 19.1% sack conversion rate. So 24th ranking there in that. I thought, honestly, they would have converted a lot more of those blitzes into actual sacks, man.
Yeah, I mean, when you're bringing that much pressure, you would expect you would expect there to be some sort of result that's yielded that speaks to the havoc and the chaos that you're creating. Because honestly, like Miami, not just from this game, like Miami is good at designing and disguising their pressure looks and their fronts. Like they do a good job, but you're seeing here with these numbers, like when they're not creating a free runner, when they're not winning quickly, they're not generating anything and they're hung out to dry. And that's where you see plays like the 60-yard completion to Stephon Diggs and the pressure doesn't get there and everything's gummed up and then you're vulnerable on the back end. And that's been the problem for Miami this year is they've cooked up all these looks and schemes and games and designs. But when they haven't got there, they've paid for it, which also, again, speaks to why the Bills would attack in this way because they know Miami's tendencies and they also recognize, you know what, even though they're playing this hand really hard, we kind of think that they're not that great at it. And we can still kind of expose it. And when you look at the bottom piece there, I still can't get over how Andrew color coded it in Dolphins colors. Like, I just love it. It's some fantastic
detail there. There's some detail. It helps too.
You got the eye for it. If we look on that bottom line, where we have a title and opposing quarterbacks have benefited from it, look at the difference between the between the blitzes and the non-blitzes. So it's the opposite of what you would think. So when Miami is blitzing, they're giving up 101.9 passer rating. When they're not blitzing, 89.3. When blitzing, first downs per attempt percentage, 37.3. Almost actually 8.2 percentage points higher than what they're at when they're not blitzing. And then the big one at the end.
Hey, hold on before you move on. I mean, how many first downs did the Bills have? 25?
Yeah,
I mean, that's crazy.
It's nuts. And the Bills also generated 13 explosive plays in this game, which is their second most for the year. Like, so they were able to gouge Miami and get them. And the last stat there in that column, again, this one is wild. So when Miami is blitzing, they're giving up a 6.3% touchdown to interception percentage ratio versus when they're not blitzing, 3.0. Doubling that percentage is wild. And again, what does it speak to, Eric? When they are blitzing, they are vulnerable and their opponents are capitalizing on those vulnerabilities with either big plays or scoring plays, just like the Bills did in this wild card game.
Yeah. And so you see all those blitz rates. And so, they're blitzing a lot, but they're not always effective and they're giving up big plays. Y Towns King, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining us in the film room tonight. He says the Shakir drop in the second gave them the needed life. If he would have held on to the catch the game, wouldn't it be as close? My opinion. Yeah, I agree with you. And we're going to talk about that because Anthony just mentioned how many explosive plays they had, 13. If you add that 50 plus yarder And even the Knox one that, he was separated from the ball from Javon Holland, like those are two.
That's 14 and 15 right there.
That's
And that would be
exactly.
and that would then be their most on the year, because the most they had on the year prior to this game was 14.
Right. And so, we talked about, the blitz numbers and how they're kind of middling when it comes to actually converting those into sacks and pressure altogether. On all plays, according to True Media, they have a pressure rate of 36.2%, which is top 10. It's 8th. So on all plays, they can create pressure. And their average time to pressure in those situations is 2.42 seconds. So it's within that quick game or normal timing of a play, which is first. So they have on all plays, they actually have a really good pressure rate. And why are we bringing that up? Because it's not necessarily how effective they are as a blitzing team. It's when they show the blitz and they want you to think they're blitzing, but then they drop out and they send 4, but you just don't know what 4 are coming. That is where that illusion of the blitz is really, and they're blitzing, how often they blitz really hurts opposing quarterbacks more so than the actual blitzing themselves.
I love that point, because again, it ties into what we did. I keep going back to that week 3 game plan from the Miami Dolphins.
The pressure was on, is what we called it.
Yes, we did. And it was a beautiful game plan. And what you just said ties into what they did in week 3, and also a bit of where they found success this year, because they're blitzing so much and teams know that they are. So they keep showing those blitz looks, but then all of a sudden it's not a blitz and they're just rushing a regular 4 and they're dropping back into cover 3, or they're rushing a regular 4 and they're dropping into cover 2, or it's a simulated pressure, or it's a creeper. And all of a sudden they have set you up by trying to make you play into their tendencies and then using their own tendencies against you in order to try and play mind games and play Jedi mind tricks. And that's where we saw a lot of the problems, start to creep up for the Bills in week 3, were those changes in the pre to post snap picture. And we saw it again to a degree in this wild card game, where I think you said it, you either said it on Sunday or maybe said it today on Twitter, or when we were talking pre-show, that it wasn't really the cover 0 blitzes, like when the Miami was bringing 7 and 8, that really gave the Bills problems. It was those 5-man pressures, those 6-man pressures, where you thought that 7 or 8 were going to come, and it was really just 5 or 6, but you didn't know who were the 5 or 6 and what was happening on the back end. And that's where it caused some hesitation, or it caused a free runner. And then all of a sudden a negative play is created, which is what Miami is trying to do this entire time.
Yeah. And it's, again, going back to that week 3, what we used in that episode was it was taxing. It was taxing on Josh. Like any quarterback, when they show those blitzes all the time, they show those cover 0 looks, you have to set protections and cover as many as you guys get, like as many rushers as possible. Yes, if they're sending all of those guys, they're going to have a +1. But you have to still set the protections so that you know which guy you're throwing hot off of, or which guy's going to be the free runner. And so they want you to have to do that every single play. They want to test the quarterback from the shoulders up every single play. But it doesn't end once the ball is snapped, because then, as Ant said, they're dropping some of those guys out. They're sending some of those guys at you, and sometimes it's only 4, but you just don't know which ones. And then you got to process the coverage spinning. Like, there's a lot to take in with these cover 0 looks.
And the receivers have to process the coverage as well.
And they have to be on the same page.
Yes, which is hard. We, Bills legend and Giants legend, Isaiah Hodgins, when we had him on in the preseason in the film room, we talked about, just how complicated, just like completing a 6-yard hitch is. Like, everything that's happening in his mind, in the quarterback's mind, in the offense's mind, even the most simple of completions and the simplest of plays that, when you see it happen on TV and it's just like, simple pitch and catch. It's so complicated just to generate that simple pitch and catch, let alone the more complicated concepts that you're facing offensively, defensively, regardless of what's happening. And yeah, Miami plays to that hand. They want you to have to work for it mentally and physically pre and post snap.
Yeah. And so to add more context, because I've seen a couple of comments in the chat room, to add more context to, hey, yeah, they threw deep 33% of the time, which was double what Allen, I think, averaged on the season, according to PFF. We want to talk about, some of the context of that and like when those plays were called. So I looked up some of the stats on and buy down. So I listed them there on the screen. So passing attempts of 20 air yards or more, buy down. Just to get an idea, were they taking those shots on 3rd down, 1st down, 2nd down? Which down were they going deep on? So 1st down was 50% of the plays. So 50% of those plays that there's 12 in all. 50% of those plays, 6 plays, were called thrown down the field, 28 air yards or more.
Which
and
I like.
Which is, it's perfect, right? Because especially when you scroll down a little bit and you see the situations, 5 of those 12 plays were 4 of those were on first down, and they're on play action,
which is beautiful.
That's ideal.
That's what
you want most of those shots down the field on first down off of play action, especially with Josh Allen under center. Those are the shots that we're going to talk about here. So second down, it was only 17%. That's 2 plays. They didn't get any yardage on that, but that Knox drop, or not drop, but when he was separated from the ball, that was on second down off of play action. Third down was 4 plays. That's 33% of those plays of 20 air yards or more. They had 83 yards. So 83 yards minus it that's not including the Shakir drop here. So that would have been another 54. So for a lot of the people that were, and I get it, when you're watching a game, you're riding that roller coaster of emotions, right? And you don't have the ability to step back and look at these plays and break them down like we do in huddle and kind of get some of the stats on when it happened and why it happened. But 83 yards on third down on 4 plays, and they could have had a lot more. And a lot of people are complaining about throwing the ball deep when on third down there's no intermediate or short options. Like, I mean, that's being quite nitpicky, and it's frustrating to watch, especially when now you can step back and actually watch the film again and realize, okay, I was riding a little hot there. Like, okay, I'm gonna step back.
That's fair. You see it from the broadcast, and you're just seeing where Josh Allen is throwing the ball to. You're not seeing anything else. And I think like a common thought that I kept seeing on Twitter after the game, because I got superstitious when things were going wrong, so I stopped going on my phone during the game in hopes of trying to turn the tide a bit. After the game, I was seeing so many comments and thoughts from people saying like, Dorsey needs to stop calling these deep shots, and Dorsey needs to stop calling these deep shots. One, that's what was available, and that's where they wanted to attack.
Right.
But 2, yes, Josh Allen went deep, but there were other options available underneath on several of these deep shots that ended up being inefficient plays. I know Kendall tweeted something last night to try and show that even on the successful ones, there were like other options underneath, just to allow people to see that it wasn't just all these verticals like you and I talked about on Sunday. And Dorsey wasn't just calling deep shots for everyone. There were other options available. But granted, Josh Allen could have been more efficient in his decision-making. There were several plays where he went deep and could have taken the lower percentage throw, where he could have stayed on schedule or could have.
Yeah, I saw that reel, and it was a little much, because they're like 33 seconds left in the first half. Josh Allen throws a shoulder fake, throws a dime to Gabriel Davis, but then you highlight the check down as like a higher percentage throw. I don't want him making that check down throw.
Oh no, 1,000%. So, what I'm saying is, like, I think people I think thought they saw like the deep shot to Gabriel Davis that was incomplete, and I think they thought, well, everybody's running verticals, and that's not what was happening. Josh was attacking where he saw the read, and also those reads were often the right call. It's just that they were a lower percentage throw, and you have to make a tougher throw downfield. Eric, it ties a little bit into the whole Gabriel Davis piece when people talk about his reception percentage. It's like, well, look where most of his targets come, 15 and 20 yards downfield. And you've got people who are like, well, how come his reception percentage is this?
What's funny about that too is Gabriel Davis, his routes are so predictable in this offense. He only runs digs. He had a couple nice dig routes with Josh Allen. He only runs corners. He only runs posts. Like, yeah, look, no one's stopping him.
He's having success on them.
That's where he's elite. Like,
that's where
what
is
good. Wrong with that? Like, I
play to his strengths.
Yeah.
And you get, it all comes together with that piece of, I think that reactionary piece was just questioning the deep ball and why things were happening the way they were. But honestly, a lot of the times it was built into the game plan. And also it's where the read was. Like, we're going to show these plays and you're going to see like, oh, there was an option underneath, but guess what? It was covered, and the deep route was the correct read, and there was space. You just got to be able to execute. But that's what Miami was playing to. They're banking on you not being able to execute those lower percentage plays down the field, but that's all they're giving you because they're trying to take away, and they are taking away all the higher percentage plays in the underneath and intermediate.
Yeah, so we set up the show. You're going to see, again, the highlights, the lowlights. We're obviously going to start with the highlights. We want to get this, kick this thing off right. We showed you the context leading into the game, why some of these plays and aggressiveness were called from Ken Dorsey and Josh Allen. But man, second play of the game, this was a beautiful play out of empty. Something that Ant and I talked before going live, that the Bills should have went to a lot more to kind of help Josh in the offensive line identify those zero blitzes and the 5 and 6 man pressures, because it spreads everyone out. You have to kind of declare what you're doing here. There are only, I think there's 10 plays out of empty. Only 2 of them weren't successful. So something they probably should have did
one
more
of
of.
them, and one of them you said was the Shakir drop on that 54
drop.
yarder. So technically it was only one that was unsuccessful.
Yeah. So speaking of Shakir, in the slot to the bottom of the screen here, empty set. This is a very good, single high beater, especially cover 3, which is what they get here. And I love Josh and how he manipulates the deep safety, Javon Holland here, right off the snap. And you'll see it from the end zone angle. Just beautiful job of holding him in the post. Number 8 right here to the bottom of the screen, holding him in the middle of the field off the snap, and then throwing it once Shakir, passes that defender, throwing it to his back hip, allowing him to rotate the catch and make the catch there. Just really good eye manipulation of Javon Holland on this play from Josh Allen.
Really good eye manipulation, and you hit my favorite point, the ball placement and the location. Like this, he's purposefully placing it on this left shoulder to put him away from Javon Holland, because everything that he's doing here is because he's IDing Holland. He starts out by trying to manipulate him and holding him in the middle of the field or pushing him the other way, and then he throws it to the back shoulder for Shakir to protect him, knowing that Holland's going to come screaming down. And I got to stop because John is here. John, thank you very much for being here. Huge fan. We're huge fans of yours, John.
Yeah, man.
And he gives us a super chat, which is awesome. But his comment, I'm guessing, is going to be good, and I haven't even read it yet. He says, the Bills offense versus the Dolphins D was like the Hagler-Hearns fights years ago. Everyone threw bombs and went for kill shots. A fun watch at 20-24, third down here behind enemy lines on Miami Beach. I was nervous. Big W. I can't imagine being a Bills fan down in Miami Beach when Miami went up 24-20. Good Lord. You're a strong man.
Yeah, you are stronger than I am, man. I just, and I'm usually quite reserved, but I can only imagine what it's like being behind enemy lines with Dolphins fans. It's wild, man. We appreciate you, John, in the film room and joining us every week, honestly.
Yeah, John, you are you're absolutely tremendous. Thank you for being here. And yeah, this was a good play and a good starter early on. Like it's Allen getting into a rhythm, making a good read. It was also nice to see Shakir getting involved early, especially with Isaiah McKenzie not being available. There was that question of, okay, who starts to see more snaps and or more targets coming out of the slot? Do they lean more to Cole Beasley, or do they start to put some more on the shoulders of Shakir? And this was an indication early that they were starting to trust Shakir more in terms of being a viable option in this offense.
Yeah, and on to the next play. It's the 8th play of the offensive drive, or of the offense altogether. This is a sale concept. We've actually covered this a couple times this season.
So much.
Sometimes the Diggs, sometimes the Dawson Knox. But just look at the, you got 3 routes are kind of like leveled there. Very good versus single high looks. But you also have that clearing route from John Brown to the bottom of the screen. This play is the same exact concept and play that they ran when Josh Allen threw the interception. So watch John Brown's route at the bottom and how he runs it. It's the same exact play, but again, they run the route to Diggs here, the sail route. They run that to Dawson Knox on that play. So you see the nice, again, play action fake, nice deep drop. This is actually a 5-man pressure. They fire that linebacker and hell of a pickup by Devin. Play action fake, pick up that linebacker. And then that little pump fake, again, you're getting this guy out to the flats. We talk about it all the time. So it's a little flare control. You get him going out to the flats. That little pump fake moves him just a little bit, brings him down, and opens up that window, right, Anthony, for that deep out route from Diggs there. And then Josh, he just drops it in the bucket.
Josh had a lot of really subtle quarterback plays in this game, whether it was eye manipulation, whether it was shoulder fakes, whether it was a subtle pump fake here. This one is really beautiful because you see that underneath defender, he recognizes like where Diggs is going behind him, but that he sees the flash of Gilliam in front. So by giving that pump fake, you already see that underneath defender right there at the 34-yard line. He sees that pump, he commits, and he comes forward. And all of a sudden, you've opened up that window just a little more to be able to get this ball to Stephon Diggs, because he's got coverage from the inside. So you want to open up that window to the outside a little bit, give yourself some more space. It's a nice, you see the throw and it's like, oh, good arm and good strength. But this play was set up because of Josh Allen's mental ability. This is still almost like a far hash throw between the numbers and the sideline, which takes arm strength and touch and accuracy. He pulls the string a little bit on it. But that pump fake right there that gets that underneath defender to commit, and all of a sudden you're able to throw it behind him. Really quality play from Josh. And I also love that you mentioned the Singletary blitz pickup. One thing that stood out for me in watching the tape, Singletary and James Cook, solid in pass protection. A lot of good pickups, which is a nice piece for their game. Yeah, Singletary had a lot of good ones. Cook had
some nice cut blocks, chop blocks. Like he's getting really good at cutting, man. I'm surprised.
He cut Baker completely on one, and then another he got right into the gut of Roberts and held him up a bit. A lot of it with pass protection is just IDing it properly. So you see Singletary get there, do just enough to combat Baker, who is a good blitzing linebacker. Miami's linebackers are so much better coming forward than they are in space. But again, this play really comes down to Josh manipulating the defense again and playing quarterback from the neck up and then executing with his arm.
Yeah, we see that pump fake or shoulder fake a couple times in this game.
Yes.
So again, top of the screen, hopefully you guys can kind of see some of the numbers. I want you to pay attention to a couple of the columns. Right here, you see the number of rushers. So on this one, this is one of those cover zero looks. So as we go through the film, keep an eye on the number of the pass rushers, the down and distance. Hopefully you guys can, get a little glimpse of that type of stuff to add context to each play. So this is obviously the big play that Diggs down the field. He got Josh Allen got a 5.1 EPA on this play alone. Obviously it's a bomb. That's probably why, a wicked bomb. So as you can see across the board, they're playing that cover zero look. They got everyone up near the line of scrimmage. And I thought two things that come to mind when I think about the cover zero looks from this game. I feel like Ken Dorsey and the offensive staff were dead set on picking up these pressures, making sure they knew who their assignment was, because for a lot of these cover zero blitzes, the zero blitzes weren't the issue in this game. They were actually the 5 and 6 man pressures. These cover zero blitzes and looks were actually picked up quite well when they actually did bring guys like on this play. The second thing about the cover zero looks that I noticed in this game, it was almost like the Dolphins were expecting Josh to kind of continuously drop deep into the pocket, like you see him drift back to buy time. So they were kind of going to a spot, and then Josh was just stopping, and he was able to set up in the pocket, which you'll see on this play once we let it roll. But cover zero look, again, setting the protection. What they're doing is they're sending Deion Dawkins, the left tackle, sliding everyone to the right. They're bringing Devin Singletary and Dawson Knox across the formation to pick it up. It's a max protection, and Josh calls it when he sees this zero pressure. Watch him right there, top of the head, max protection. Watch Knox come in a little further, and they're setting up that max protection. So only 3 guys are going into a route, and you see that little sign from Josh Allen, that go route sign. He gives that to Gabriel Davis later on that first deep shot in the fourth quarter that everyone complained about. Josh Allen gave him that signal. So they max protect it. So there are only 3 guys in the route. Josh wants to go for the throat here, which it's a smart play. Stephon Diggs gets that separation. He's able to drop it in the bucket, and a great throw. But man, kudos to the protection, right? Talk about the protection from this angle and how they kind of set it up to pick up everyone.
Yeah, you get you're highlighting 22 right there, and you see the slide action from everyone inside of him. So from Roger Saffold over, you see where Dawson Knox is going to pick up Bradley Chubb, number 2, and then basically they're sliding that offensive line over. So that way, Devin Singletary, as Eric has highlighted there, he knows he's already got his eyes locked onto Eric Rowe. So you see the slide from everyone. Dawkins slides down as well, picks up 22. Singletary knows he's coming over. He's picking up Eric Rowe. This is a really good blitz pickup against cover zero. And it wasn't, like you said, this wasn't unique to this one cover zero look. The Bills picked it up well in this game. And this is the risk that you run when you show cover zero.
And it's unfair, right? It's unfair to these corners.
Yes.
They're not supposed to have this much time. Watch Howard to the top, right? Like he's like, okay, ball should be coming out. It's not. Diggs is going deep.
He's waiting. And again, this is 3rd and 15. So the Dolphins defenders are thinking this ball has to come out quick. we're going to make a play on the ball, or we're going to come forward and make a play. Like they're sitting and expecting it. Darius Slay from the Philadelphia Eagles retweeted this play and had a really good comment saying like, man, this is unfair to ask for a defensive back against cover zero because the ball, like this isn't supposed to happen. So what the Bills do on this play, again, this is also a microcosm of what we've been talking about, because look at Gabriel Davis on the out, like the smart or the conservative play, I should say, that has the highest odds of completion is just throwing it down to Gabriel Davis right there. And then maybe you hope he breaks a tackle. Maybe the defender makes a misstep.
That's when they trap that. Normally
Correct.
they'll call a banjo there. He'll trap the out, and then the other guy will spin to the top.
And they've done this. They did this several times in this game. So they're trying to bait you into those looks. So someone's going to see this and be like, well, he should have thrown it to Gabriel Davis. But the read is Stephon Diggs, especially when, if you're even, you're leaving, and you have the sticks marked right there. Like, you need to get that first down. Diggs is in one-on-one coverage. You got your boy, who's one of the best receivers in football, in a situation where the defensive back is at a disadvantage, and you take the shot. This call, I don't want to make this blanket statement because I don't want people to take it the wrong way. This is almost the same type of mindset as the shot to Gabriel Davis later in the game. The only difference is Josh Allen delivers an absolute dime. Like that's the only difference. The execution is better. The idea behind it, the reasoning behind it all, because of what Miami's doing, because of what you're trying to do on offense, it's the same premise. The only difference is the execution. But again, like we continue to say, that's what Miami is banking on, because even though this is a great throw from Josh Allen, it's a quote unquote lower percentage throw because of how far downfield it is. But it happens because of the execution. The route by Stephon Diggs, his ability to track the ball, Josh Allen's pinpoint accuracy, and then the pass protection up front to slide that line all the way over. Knox and Singletary are in man pickups. They both pick up their guys. The line slides to the left and gums it up. Boom, you get a huge gain. And you gouge Miami and you make them pay for giving you that look.
Yeah, and on the very next play, they scored there, right? It was Dawson Knox was the very next play, I believe.
Yeah, with a ridiculous throw from Josh Allen,
Yeah,
and also a ridiculous catch.
I thought I put that in there. Hold on, I thought I put that in there. Hold on, we can't just.
It is literally the next play.
Yeah, it's a separate playlist. Let me get that play because I can't just gloss over that play.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I just can't do that.
This is another throw where like Allen, again, this is like his second or third touchdown this year where he's just like whizzing the ball past like the ear hole of a defender. And I feel like the defender can just like hear the going by their ear and they're like, what the hell just happened? And all of a sudden it's a touchdown. Just, that throw and catch from Dawson Knox. I'm going to show you right here. He comes across on that slide route and you just get a little off script play and creation from Josh Allen that is all set up by that explosive play you just generated.
Yeah, and the stadium's going nuts. And just I like this prior to the snap, though, because they have Javon Holland right here making it look like he's in man coverage on Dawson Knox. So Josh calls the alert. He's like, we got the man coverage. I'm going to try to work him on the slide route and have Holland have to work through all this traffic all the way across the field, try to get some leverage on him, have him get caught in traffic. But the Dolphins actually don't have him travel with him. What they do is they peel the end man on the line of scrimmage, Baker, with that slide route. You see everyone kind of going to the middle of the field, and there's nothing there. It's shut down. And then you see Dawson Knox extend the play. And then, as Ant said, just throwing it to the inside, to the inside by the left ear hole of Baker there, the linebacker. And one hell of a catch from Knox, too. People always say he makes some of the more difficult catches, but, struggles with some of the easy ones. I mean, this was one of his better catches in his career along the boundary. Good outside of structure, script type of route and play from Dawson Knox.
This is I can't believe he just one hands it and then manages to he brings it in and then manages to get the knee down in bounds,
right?
And the hand, just beautiful play. And I love that. When I said into the ear hole, the helmet, Dan comes in and says, right by the blowhole. That's exactly right. It just whizzes by Baker's head right into Knox. And this is also one from like a momentum standpoint, especially early on in the game. Granted, Miami turned the tide a little bit. This one, you're like, if you're the defense, you fooled Josh Allen, you executed well, you had a good call, you covered everything up, and then Josh Allen just beats you by going off script and using his athleticism and making a ridiculous throw. And not only does he make a ridiculous throw, Dawson Knox makes a ridiculous catch. Like you're sitting there just being like, dude, Like, really? But this is the give and take of Josh Allen, like his ability to pull these plays out of his hat that very few, if any, can make. Granted, he may make some throws that may seem foolish at times, but more often than not, he makes the spectacular play happen. And when it does, it's huge for the Bills, and it's a huge momentum takeawayer piece. That's not good verbiage, but whatever. It takes away momentum from their opponent. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and I mean, he had 7 big time throws in this game. 7. That's the most he's had all season.
I was gonna say that's a lot for people who don't know that.
7.
That's a lot.
Yeah. He had a 17.1% big time throw percentage. The number, obviously the top all season. It looks like the second best game was the week 6 game against Kansas City, where he had 6 big time throws. After that, it's Pittsburgh week 5. So he had some big time throws. Yes, there were some turnovers. He had some turnover worthy plays. That was at 6% for this game. But I just don't think people realize like how big he's playing. Yes, he's got some turnovers. His big time throw percentage this year is 8. That's obviously the highest he's had his entire career. The next best year was 2020, where he had a 6.1. All right. So by season, 2018, when we're talking big time throw percentage, 2018, he was at 4.9. 2019 was 2.8. So we went backwards. 2020 was 6.1. 2021 was 5.9. He has 8, and that's number 1 in the league. And I mean, by a good margin too. If we look at quarterbacks that had over 50% of the dropbacks this year. So Josh Allen is number 1 at big time throw percentage at 8. The next best guy is Aaron Rodgers at 5.7.
Huge difference. And if I could add one more piece on that big time throw piece in that game in this game against Miami in the wild card, he had 6 of his 7 big time throws came 20 yards or more downfield. He had a big time throw percentage of 40% in this wild card game.
And we're 40%
mad on throws 20 yards downfield.
And we're mad about throwing it deep. Come on now.
But that's also, Eric, like that's how there isn't one way to win a football game. Some teams run it more. Some teams run more zone, and some teams run more gap. Some teams pass it more. Some attack vertically. Some run, the Shanahan offense. Some want to run a West Coast. You can win a game by dinking and dunking and nickeling and diming and being surgical up and down the field, or you can be less efficient but generate explosives and gash your opponent and still win. And that's what the Bills did in this game. Granted, sometimes it may have looked ugly or felt stagnant because they were going 3 and out or they were punting the ball. But when you take the game as a whole, those explosive plays are what made the difference. And again, it's just another way of how you can win a football game.
Yeah, and we have a question on what a big time throw is. Basically, PFF charts that as, or defines that as a pass with excellent ball location and timing, generally thrown further down the field. So some of these plays that we're talking about, where he's, the big one, the dig is obviously a big time throw. I'm pretty sure that one that we just saw, the timing and placement of that play were pretty ridiculous. So again, he's number 1 by a healthy margin. So yes, you're going to have some of those turnover worthy plays. I think he's at 4.3%. I think that's like 3rd in the league. Maybe I think it's tied with Tua. But you can't take away those type of throws. And especially when he's completing them at that rate and location. Like that's one thing we talk about a lot is how his deep, remember that used to be an issue. Remember?
Yes,
like
deep ball.
Deep ball used to be an issue.
And everybody would be like, he's got this huge arm, but he's so inaccurate downfield. And every year he's improved his deep passing from a metric perspective. And he's become one of the better deep ball throwers and explosive plays, not just from like a lower explosive play, but the downfield, big time chunk explosive play kind of guys.
So here's another cover 0 look, another successful play, 3rd and 2 situation. You got the trips bunch set to the left here. And Dawson Knox in a tight alignment, and the Bills are in 4 strong. So Devin Singletary is to Allen's left. You have 2 in-breaking routes. One is by Diggs. He's the innermost receiver right there. You have a delayed, kind of crossing route right here from Shakir, and then a big post from Gabriel Davis. Again, cover 0 look. So they set the protection and they set it pretty decently here. And Josh, he throws it to Diggs here. A lot of people thought that maybe it was just an overthrow and it was actually intended for Shakir, but I believe personally this was intended for Stephon Diggs on this play because you can see the hips and you see it better from the end zone angle. This guy already has his hips turned. So he's already declaring he thinks that, that probably Diggs is going to be running this deep over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Diggs attacks the inside hip here and flattens it. And as soon as that guy is flipping his hip and transitioning, that's when Allen hits him. So I do believe that he was intending to throw this to Diggs. And again, we're talking about, why are they taking all those big shots down the field? Well, guess what? This would have been a touchdown if Josh wanted to be greedy.
That's
but
fair.
He didn't take that. So threw it to Diggs here. Good pickup for the most part inside from the end zone angle. You'll see it. They do a good job. Everyone's mugging out, man. Look at them. And so they slide these guys that way. They bring motor.
Beautiful.
They lock up.
Same concept that we showed earlier on that cover zero pickup.
Did a great job of locking up for the most part. One guy comes free, but again, Josh stands in there and delivers it to Diggs versus this cover zero look.
And again, this is the risk reward piece, right? Like technically, if you're Miami, technically all three guys in the route distribution are open. So it's just a matter of like which one Josh can find and where. For me, it starts with the pass protection piece. They bring 8. The Bills only have 7 that are able to pick it up. They have the 5 offensive linemen. They have Dawson Knox, and they have Devin Singletary. But they're able to pick it up because, again, their protection rules. They slide to the left. They bring Singletary to the right. This is another really good pickup for Devin Singletary. I know on the bigger one earlier, it kind of looked like he tackled the defender and could have been called for a hold. This time, there's none of that. He brings his feet, brings his hands, pushes Rowe to the outside. And you get Duke Riley coming screaming in. But again, that's just going to happen because they are outnumbered. I also like what Mitch Morse and Roger Saffold do on this play. Because they are outnumbered, they each work through a defender before they get to their man. So you see Roger Saffold make
that
contact.
drag hand, right? That right hand from Morse there punches out, protects that interior gap to help his partner.
And Saffold does the same thing to help out Morse. It's a nice little positive domino effect. Because again, what are you trying to do? When they bring the house like that, somebody's going to get open. So all you're trying to do up front is just give your quarterback enough time to find the open guy. Josh happens to have 2 open guys. And I agree with you. I think Allen saw the hip turn of that defender and knew what Diggs was running and knew that he just had to wait long enough and he'd have him coming across on that over. And you also look at where the ball is thrown. Like the ball is thrown perfectly to Stephon Diggs. So for me, I think it was meant to go to Diggs.
Yeah, and I think if he actually leads him, I think because someone's asking in the chat room, if he throws it to Shakir, then Diggs can block. And I get that thinking, but I do think that if Josh places this better, I think his intention is to lead him a little more because, again, he sees that transition. He sees that transition happening right there. So I think he wants to lead him so that Diggs can catch it and actually run to the end zone. So I don't think it's a perfectly placed pass. I think that's why a lot of people thought it was meant for Shakir, but I do think it was for Diggs, man.
I also think I don't know how much of an ask of that that is for Josh Allen to be like, oh, wait, I've got Diggs and Shakir. Let me give it to Shakir so that way Diggs can turn and pick up the defender and then he can escort him into the end zone. That's a lot to process.
And your alpha wide receiver. Space and your alpha wide receiver, get it to him.
Just give it to him. He doesn't lead him out in front enough.
Shakir gets a touch here. Right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say Diggs flips it to him. I also he flips it to him and then Diggs gives like a little fist pump with his left hand when he's on the ground. Watch him. He's like,
go.
Just like you want this touch? Here you go. Yeah, go take it to the house. Do your thing. I think based on the defender's body position and the timing of the throw to Diggs more than the ball placement. I think you can kind of paint that picture or put that picture together, indicating that it was going to him.
Yeah, we appreciate everyone joining us. 237 viewers. Thanks for tuning into this edition of the Film Room. Smash that like button. Leave us a comment. Please. Again, your favorite play, where you're tuning in from. Leave us whatever you want in the comment section. It actually goes a long way with us. So thanks for joining us. So with the next play, this is right before the half. This is the play I was talking about earlier. 33 seconds left in the first half.
Oh, yes. This is my favorite play.
Yeah. So you see the 2 high look. You see a bender route to Knox in the slot to the top. Gabriel Davis is the number 1 outside. And the Dolphins play that 2 high look. And you're going to see that bender right as he gets around that defender. You're going to see Josh throw a nice little fake. There's Davis just outside the numbers there. And there's that shoulder fake again. And that shoulder fake does one hell of a number on this deep safety. Look at him open and drive on the bender route by Knox, and then Josh just layers it in there for Gabriel Davis for the big play.
What I like about this shoulder fake, and this is what makes it my favorite play, the pump fake that we showed early in the game where Josh wants that underneath defender to commit to Gilliam so he can hit Diggs on the sail route. It was subtle. This time, his shoulder fake is so much more pronounced. He gives like almost an over-exaggerated, like an entire turn of the body. As Eric, you highlighted.
Look where he's looking at him. He's looking right at that safety too.
He's baiting him. He's staring right at him, and then he gives a hard shoulder fake. And look what happens to that safety. Look what happens to Eric Rowe. He takes the bait, goes with Dawson Knox, and now you've created some more room for you to fire this to Gabriel Davis. And it's just such a smart play. We've seen Allen do this a bunch, whether it's just a regular pump fake or the shoulder fake or any type of body lean or movement, but just the ability to manipulate a safety that much. And this is, again,
I don't want that. I don't want that guy.
Here's another example, right? Like I don't want to say smart, but I'm gonna, because I feel like people would say the smart throw is dump it down to Devin Singletary. But also you're looking at how much time is left on the clock.
Yeah.
What's the situation? There's not a lot of time left in the second quarter. You're trying to get this ball downfield.
So they had 2 timeouts here. So you're going to check it down to Devin Singletary. I mean, how much is he actually going to get on that play?
Maybe he gets the first down. So then you're still
You're burning a timeout.
Correct. Right, you're burning a timeout. You're at probably the 35. Then on the next play, you still have one timeout, but the defense knows, okay, they have to take a shot. Now they can play that situation a little better. Instead, you just run a regular play, manipulate the safety, and take the shot. This, again, is the same mindset that the Bills used throughout this game, recognizing what they could get deep and attacking it. Josh just makes a great throw. Davis makes a good catch. The difference is in the execution, not the reasoning. And again, I get
the results. Yeah.
I get the momentum piece from people and the idea of like, well, you just wanted to keep the ball and, keep Miami, off balance and yada, yada. But at the end of the day, the Bills put up 34 points by gouging Miami time and time again down the field. And it's okay to focus on the results, but you have to focus on, no pun intended, you have to focus on the process and the reason behind why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's why you guys come here. We want to add context to not just our thoughts, but a lot of thoughts that the Mafia have, whether they agree or don't agree with us. But we're going to show you the process and try to add as much context as we can. And so on to the next play. This is that big time throw to Gabriel Davis, bottom of the screen on a corner route, which he loves to run, but still can't be stopped.
It's all he runs.
Yeah. So I love this. Too high look. He said he knew he was going to be one-on-one with that safety. Why? You got Diggs right here in the slot. Yes. And again, they're playing a split field looks, but they have 3 defenders. So it's, 3/2. We talk about leverage and defense all the time in that manner. 3/2, that's a good number. But when you have to worry about Diggs, especially when the Bills like to run these switch release concepts where he comes back here, this defender has to watch him just a little bit longer. Obviously, Xavier Howard is going to be watching him. He doesn't want to give that play up. And so that opens up Gabriel Davis versus that safety, puts it right on his toes. And then this throw, I think Aaron Rodgers said today on Pat McAfee that what Josh Allen can do on this throw and what he did is why he loves watching Josh Allen so often. Because if you look at Josh Allen initially, again, empty set, should have done it more. You see the 3 receivers to the top. Look where he's looking. He looks over there first. And then, again, just flips, and then it's a dime. And I love the placement on this throw, Anthony. That's probably my favorite thing on this play is once he flips those hips and decides I'm throwing it to Davis, in a blink of an eye, look at the placement. And it's a nice layered throw. It's not like a rifle. Like he throws it with a little touch and takes a little of the ball speed off, but the placement is just perfect. Just right at the eye level of Gabriel Davis so that he doesn't have to worry about, moving his head too much when he's trying to get his feet in bounds. And then it's big play Gabe. And he gets his feet in, that boundary awareness, and he's back.
I know this Gabriel Davis touchdown made you feel better. I know you got out of your seat when you saw it.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I've been in his corner for a long time. It's just, I think fans, they're so in the moment and there's so much recency bias. They forget about what a player has done and then believe that he just all of a sudden can't do those things anymore.
Fair. And this was such a big play. I love the hands catch from Davis and he gets the feet down. I like the concept. It basically kind of functions almost like a smash concept where you've got
Yep.
that underneath defender being held by an underneath route, and you can fit that whole shot in. But we talked about this on Sunday when we went live. Granted, we were looking at dots instead of the actual
Yeah.
play. Josh Allen throws him open. Like, granted, Davis has space and he's open,
Sure.
but like you said, it's the placement. He puts this ball in a place where that safety has no shot. And it's not one of those throws where, like, he threw it so only his guy could get it, but it requires like a spectacular catch and he has to do something ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, and the
look at
trajectory, right? Like, if
yes,
he throws it flat, maybe this guy can undercut it,
correct.
right?
And how much have we seen that from him this year? The ability to fire a ball with pace, but his ability to layer it over an
Mhm.
underneath defender. Very similar to the first throw to Gabriel Davis in week 15 on the game-winning drive in the snow against Miami to the boundary with that underneath defender
Yeah.
lurking it. He's able to laser it, but he layers it over that underneath defender. That's quality quarterback play. Again, you show the base and the fundamentals. He looks right, and you got his feet highlighted right there,
Yeah.
bouncing, and then just the ability to lean into it and fire it. And it's got pace, it's got accuracy, it's got a good trajectory to get there. And he throws him open in a window that wasn't the biggest. Again, the ball is already on the hash, so you're working into the boundary. This has to be a fine throw, and it's a fine route from Davis to be able to separate at the top. But Allen throws him open and puts it in a spot where, like you said, it makes it a I don't want to make it seem simple, but it makes it a relatively easy catch for Gabe Davis. He's just able to look up and literally grab it and pluck it and toe tap and touchdown. And this was huge. Like, the Bills needed this. It looked like they were starting to pull away again. It didn't happen, but it was huge to put those 34 points up on the board with that touchdown.
Yeah, and so we're gonna move on to the big catch from Shakir. Final play of the highlights. So this was a 3rd-and-1 situation, and Bills are only up 3 points. It's 7:24 on the clock. The clock is running. So you're gonna see the Bills run. It's a 2-by-2 set, and they're running some deeper routes to the top of the screen with John Brown and Khalil Shakir. To the bottom of the screen of the shorter routes. Dawson Knox running a crossing route, and Diggs looks like he's supposed to be running like a stop route, or he could convert it deep. It's kind of more of like an alert first look type of route, which is why Josh peeks over there and notices there's really no one open. But watch the shorter routes, like watch Knox get bumped off the route right there. Like, okay, here's the check down. I mean, he's going to get lit up. And so, Josh wants to pull the trigger deep, and he does. You see a deep, almost like a deep V route. The Bills used to love to run this with Robert Foster from the slot. And there's really nothing there.
Robert Foster.
Yeah, it's funny. That's like almost back-to-back weeks that we talked about Robert
Yeah,
Foster.
I was gonna say that's why he keeps coming back up.
But as you guys can see, there's nothing here. There's nothing there.
No.
But he puts the ball up to Shakir. I mean, puts trust in him. And thank God he makes this catch, right? Because he elevates, and if he doesn't catch that, it may be intercepted. But as you can see, there was nothing there, especially underneath. And especially, again, we talked about what the Dolphins did against the Bills here. Do you see any safety deep here? No,
I do not.
They're inviting that. They want you. This is a cover zero look. Do they send all those guys? No, but they have everyone up near the line of scrimmage. And so obviously Josh and these guys have to set the protection, but they end up dropping out. But where do they all drop out to? You have 4 defenders underneath here. So, and some of these plays in the 4th quarter, again, this was the one of those plays that a lot of people were talking about. Hey, he's throwing deep. Where is he supposed to go here? Where is he supposed to go underneath here? So he put his trust in Shakir, and I understand why. When you make a catch like that, like that'll earn you some trust and probably a lot more balls as we go forward in Khalil Shakir's career.
That was a huge catch. Full extension for a dude who isn't the biggest and who doesn't have the longest arms. He uses every bit of his body to make this catch. Oh, just sells out. Beautiful, tremendous hands catch, goes up and plucks it, and you're highlighting the path of that outside corner there. Yeah, if again, you never know for sure, but if Shakir doesn't make that catch, it sure looks like that corner is going into the path of the ball, and that's fair. Isaiah, he may not catch that one like Mr.
He's
Khalil
one of the
Shakir
top.
does.
When we're talking drop percentages, he's one of the top guys in the league. He's up there with Davis.
And maybe even, to your point that we're talking about trust, Maybe Allen doesn't even throw it up to McKenzie in this situation because he doesn't trust him based on what's
Yeah.
happened throughout the year. So
Right.
this was just a huge play from Shakir, and this was Allen throwing him open to a
Mhm.
degree, putting it in a good spot. Shakir rewarding him with that trust and going up and making a play for your dude. Just I love the play on the back end, obviously, but the piece that I wanted to tie it into, and again, you spoke on it, you mentioned it. That's that cover zero look, but it's
Yeah.
not a cover zero blitz. And then some people think like, okay, like, so they're going to bring that. Well, there's obviously space underneath. No, Dawson Knox is taken away. The alert for Stephon Diggs is taken away. Singletary's coming out of the backfield. It's nothing. What
8-man
Miami?
box.
Boom, 8-man box. So also let's tie that in for another. Well, it's 3rd and 1. Why didn't they run the ball against an
Yeah.
8-man box?
Yeah,
You don't want to do
exactly.
that. You don't have
No.
they're gapped out. You don't have the advantage there. That's not a smart play. So
But they want you
Miami,
to do that. They want you to,
correct.
yeah.
They want
You
you
wanna
to
go
take
deep
that.
or you wanna do that low percentage that run against an 8-man box? Like, which one do you want? I
And
want the
that
ball in Josh Allen's hands.
exactly. I'm gonna live and die with Josh Allen, like the Bills have all year, unless you get an advantageous look and you're like, you know what? It's 3rd and 1 and they're giving us a 6-man box. Okay, cool. I'll take the run.
Right, right.
This isn't a run look. This isn't an exciting run look. And then they take away the underneath options. Your option to go for a completion and a conversion on this 3rd down is either sling it far downfield from the far hash to the opposite sideline to John Brown, or you put it up to Khalil Shakir and you hope that he can make a play. And you got Josh who just makes another alien type throw. Shakir,
Scans the
honestly,
entire field too, right? Like,
yes,
you watch
he's
his
looking.
helmet. He's looking across the field. He's looking everywhere. And that says, "You know what? I got my guy down the field. That's it."
This isn't predetermined. This isn't him, this is who I locked onto. This is where I'm going. This is him reading the play. Again, like you said it, he first looked to Stephon Diggs. He looks to Diggs, and then he comes back. He peeks right away.
Yep.
Yep, he's looking right there. Sees he doesn't got it because Howard's all over him, plus Baker is dropping underneath. Then he looks across the middle of the field, and like we said, Dawson Knox gets jacked up by Roberts, so he's done. Where are you going to go? You got to go to Shakir. That's the only one because the farther throw to John Brown is even lower percentage
Oh,
than
yeah,
the
like,
one
he
to
gets
Shakir.
pushed almost into the boundary.
Yeah, he's nowhere close to that red
No.
line like we talk about. So you got to make an amazing throw, which even for Josh Allen, even for Patrick Mahomes, somebody like that, that's a really hard throw. You're not trusting that. You see Shakir has a step, you throw it up to your boy and you hope that he makes a play. But again, it plays into what Miami was doing and why you had to go there. It wasn't just that they were calling it just to call it. This is the result of knowing who your opponent is, but also your opponent knowing that you know who they are
Yeah.
and them trying to play that against you. And this is the mind games and the chess match that is football. If everybody knew everything that everyone was going to do, this game would suck and everything would be predictable, but that's not the way it goes.
No, yeah, it's again, there were some great highlights. But
Yes.
we wanted to initially set the stage on, why some of those calls were down the field, set that context. Now we're going to dive into some of the negative plays, but also add the context there, because
Mhm.
you're going to learn a lot more on these negative plays. That's what's going to happen. But you're going to see that there were a lot of the same type of, philosophies or strategies
Mm.
that we saw in some of the highlights. Right. And so the first play we're going to take a look at here is let's see here. Okay, so a cover zero look. This is the drop by Hines. A lot of people
Mhm.
saying that the Bills didn't have, any shorter routes versus these cover zero looks. Okay, here's the guys across the board. This is a 1st and 10 situation. They kind of do that thing they did in the week 3 game where they bring Knox across and he gets the
Mhm.
end man on the line of scrimmage. They slide everyone this way. But as you can see, there's some pressure there, right? There's some good pressure there. Clearing route by this guy, and then Hines is just running an out route. It's nothing special, but it's short, it's quick. You're getting the ball out of the hand of Josh Allen. You can see he's set, ready to throw it. Hines, for some reason, settles on the numbers.
Mm.
I don't know why he's doing that, but instead of continuing to the boundary, and so Josh throws him just a little out of reach, but it hits his hands. Whether you want to count that a drop or incomplete or a bad pass from Josh Allen doesn't really matter. My only thought is that Hines kind of slowed down, thinking that this defender was actually a little lower where he could trap it, which we
Mm.
talked about. That's what they love to do. They're not just running straight man. There's actually some banjo coverages and
Mhm.
traps involved with all these guys across the board. But as you can see, there was a play there in the short area versus a cover zero type look versus a pressure look, but it was more execution, not that it wasn't called.
Correct. And that's what's so important with everything. It's not just that you have to call the right play in the right time. Even the perfect play requires execution. And I like, again, what Miami did. You see Baker drops underneath into that window. He rushes first, so he engages Deion Dawkins. So now Dawkins is kind of like effectively wasted. They put Chubb onto Knox, then Baker drops and gets underneath and gets into that window. So he makes Josh have to either go over him or go outside him. And you pair that with Hines settling down in his route, and you get an incompletion. Like, that's a good play by Miami, a miscommunication or error on the part of Nyheim Hines. I also like how you mentioned the corner on the outside.
Yeah.
Look how fast the corner pounces on that outside. He's sitting at the sticks, and as soon as that ball comes out, he is beelining it. Why? Because this is what Miami is. They're trying to force you into that spot.
They want you to throw that. They want you to throw that hot. They want to throw it hot, rally and tackle before the sticks.
And that's a piece too. I think there were some times where the hot route, Josh should have taken it and should have gone to it, but also
we'll see one. Yep.
We will see one.
Yeah.
But also, because I know this was a thought for a lot of people, like, how come they weren't throwing hot? How come they weren't throwing hot? Yes, there were some where Josh should have thrown it and didn't, but also Miami was trying to get you to throw it hot. So by doing that, you are playing into their hand. That we saw the example earlier, and here's another one. That corner is sitting and waiting. He's sitting at the sticks. He's waiting for that out route, and he's going to jump it. And he honestly, if the ball gets deflected in a slightly different angle, he might get an interception here. Or even if Hines catches it, he might pop the ever-loving hell out of him because he's sitting on that out.
Right. And so here's another cover zero look. This time in the red zone. This is the drop from Knox, in the end zone. But there was a comment right before I flipped the screen. It says, great analysis, but I really wish the Bills could develop any kind of screen game to kind of complement, some of these looks. And yes, the Bills used to run a lot of those cover zeros, wide receiver screens, tunnel screens to John Brown. They tried. Josh actually checked to one in this game.
Yeah, to Diggs.
The Diggs. I think it was like a 1 or 2 yard game. It was minimal.
It was bad.
Yeah. But again, that's what they want you to do. So they are actually decent at defending that and coming up. And as Anthony said, those guys driving downhill on those. But that's what they want you to do, because, again, you're playing into their hands and then having to move the ball down the field, consistently against those type of looks. And so here's another one. And if you look to the bottom of the screen, Gabriel Davis is going to run a screen. John Brown's running a post to the top of the screen. You're having a post from Dawson Knox and then a curl route from Khalil Shakir at the 10-yard line. And initially, Josh, and you can see him kind of throwing hand signals out there. He's telling them what to do. He's calling their two-man route concept.
That was also real quick. That was a piece in this game. Josh was making a lot of checks at the line, whether it was protection, whether it was canning something or canceling something and going to the next play or audible. Like, there was a lot of checks happening in this game from Josh Allen.
Right. And so I think Josh actually told these guys down here, this is the route you're running. But look, you talked about screens. Josh wants to throw this screen. I think he wants to throw the screen, but then you see this guy getting into the way there, the passing lane. And so he pulls it down. And so he's coming up, and then he sees almost like the pass run option they used to run, which really never really worked. You see kind of this guy creep up, and then that opens up this right here. So Josh throws it, but again, it goes incomplete. So I like this play versus this cover zero look. Again, you're getting that slide. You're getting Devin inserting into that gap. And again, there's only one free rusher, and he's right here. Josh is running away for him, steps up, sees that guy stepping up, and then boom, there's the built-in, and then just, he's not able to reel it in.
Yeah, I think this is a catch that Dawson Knox should have made.
Yeah.
But I also put some of it on Josh. He's actually got John Brown wide open. So both of the defenders on the bottom react to the screen action. So John Brown is wide open, and then there's no one in the middle of the field. So all he has to do is just not even layer it, just put it more towards the middle of the field. Someone's coming down with this ball. It was one of the few.
Kind of like float it up. Is that what you wanted him to do?
Just put it down and put it in the middle of the field and let your guy go up and get it, because Knox is running away from his man. There's nobody on John Brown. But, Allen's in run mode. He sees Knox flash at the last minute and puts it up. But again, this is another example of a different way that the Bills were attacking this look. It wasn't just consistently, granted, you can't go deep here because you're in the red zone and you're limited, but it wasn't just consistently like vertical.
Right.
There were other wrinkles that they were working in. And in this instance, they're checking to it. Josh sees this look. And why would you check into it? Well, look at the look. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defenders all on the line. they're mugged out. It looks like they're coming for you. So Josh, exactly like you said, he's calling out the routes. He's dictating everything. He wants that screen. He can't get it. Shout out to Devin Singletary again for another blitz pickup. Also, I love the ad. You highlighted Baker. More of the games. Like,
popping out.
Let me come forward and make my lineman try to engage
Occupy
with me.
scaffold.
Exactly. Help create a free runner on the outside, which is what, like we talked about with those numbers earlier, Miami's, pressure rate and they're getting home isn't great, but they can create free runners because of the mind games they play. This is what happens, but still, Josh beats it. He just doesn't execute a great throw, but regardless, Knox still should have caught it. But again, it ties into that piece. The reasons behind it are sound. We get too focused on the result of it. This play should have worked given what they did. Allen and Knox just didn't execute on it.
Yeah, and here's a play. I'm interested in this play, not just because, again, we've seen the sail concept, and again, you're getting the same play, just Knox is running the sail right here. I'm interested on, because in the presser that McDermott, when he was asked about, kind of the turnovers with Josh Allen, he referenced this play or the interception as an errant type throw. So again, I had an issue with the decision because the Bills had like 2 or 3 runs leading into this that were good, chain movers. And so I thought the decision was bad. You didn't need to push it down the field in this manner, but he chose to. And if he had executed the pass better, if he had placed it, and as you said on that Davis throw, and as he bends out towards the boundary, and this guy has to transition this way, I think there's a chance for Josh to complete this. But instead, he throws it up the field, and that allows Howard to get on that same line that John Brown is and intercept it. So I like the call, obviously. We love the sail concept. We love talking about it, especially when it goes to Diggs or Dawson Knox. And Josh wants Dawson Knox. You can see he wants Dawson Knox here, but you see this guy driving on it. You can see this guy kind of spacing.
Stupid Javon Holland making plays all the time and doing good jobs in coverage.
Yeah, damn playmakers. So he pulls it back. He had started a delivery to throw that. Smartly pulls it back, but then again, just catches that flash of John Brown and throws it a little too far upfield. Again, I have an issue with the decision, but he could have still nailed this throw if he had placed it properly.
Those are the same takeaways from myself as well. Like, he still could have completed this pass. It's just, he throws it to the wrong shoulder. He actually helps out Xavier Howard and throws it to a spot where it allows him to recover. Especially with Howard being banged up, like his quick transitions aren't there. Like, he's hurt and he was gutting through it, but he makes a key interception here and then gets a really good return out of it. But my big thing, like you mentioned as well, it was, you've got options potentially underneath. This is first down. It's 1st and 10 from your own 47-yard line. You are up 17-3. There's no reason to go for the throw here in this aspect. Just keep staying on schedule and keep the ball.
Right. And we get it. We talked about, we want that first down play action.
Yeah.
But it's also a very limited play action pass when you have, again, and they're quality tight ends in Morris, and you have, Gilliam in there as that extra tight end and Dawson Knox, but this is still a heavy set. So they're trying to sell run. I get why they did it. But again, the decision, the time in the game, and then, of course, the placement of the throw. It's just too many things going against him. Again, it's more results driven, but there's a lot of things going against him when you're trying to attack down the field when you have that type of personnel in too.
Yeah, and I would have liked to see Josh just dump it down to Singletary or hit Quentin Morris on the cross. Take a 4-yard gain or 3-yard gain or 5-yard gain, or maybe they break a tackle and it turns into something else. Or let's say even
multiple options.
Yeah, there are even with the throw could have been completed had he made a better throw. I'm in the same boat as you. I don't think this throw needs to be made. Like, you're up by 14 points. You're controlling the game. You're at midfield. And especially too, it's not like this is 3rd down and you have to go for it. It's 1st down. Just take a little bite-sized chunk, stay ahead of schedule, and go ahead from there. Like, there's no reason to force this ball downfield and go for the throw.
Yeah, and someone's asking, hey, it was Romo. Romo said it was John Brown. This wasn't on John Brown. He ran Romo. The route. He was off, man.
I don't know what was going on with Romo. Yeah. He was. I don't even want to get into it. He was really disappointing, and he kept drilling home the whole it can't end like this for Buffalo, can it?
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like, how many times are you going to say that? Not to mention like the incorrect analysis of plays and I don't know what
He
was
was
going
like
on.
surprised to see that counter bash in the second half. He was like, dude, James Cook scored on the same exact play.
They ran it literally to
And
the other side and scored a touchdown.
yeah, and like I'm pretty sure he called some of those Chiefs games where they ran it quite well. It was weird. I feel like he's been off lately, but
It was disappointing.
he's been getting on a lot of people's nerves from what I
But
see
we
on
got him again
social
this
media.
week. Nance and
Yeah,
Romo again
can't
this week.
wait.
So we'll see what happens.
All right. So as we said, the cover zero looks for the most part have been picked up quite well in this game. Even the ones that weren't, the ball was out. They had short routes. They got it to those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where some of the issues arose, is those 5-man pressures. And so you can see, again, another heavy personnel grouping, technically 22 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. They're using Gilliam across the formation. Then they have 3 guys, 3 eligibles right here that go out in the routes, and they're sending this guy off the edge. So what they're doing is they're slanting these guys inside, and they're getting that free runner. And he's free because, as you'll see from the end zone angle, Dawkins has to make a decision on who to pick up. So he squeezes, and that leaves that free runner. But there was going to be a free runner no matter what because of that extra guy that they bring in. So I kind of outlined basically who the offensive line is picking up. As you can see, it's more of like, okay, bigs on bigs, 5-on-5, 5-0 blocking, however you want to look at it. But with Gilliam coming across a formation, look at Jerome Baker. He points to Ingram, lets him know, hey, you're peeling with Gilliam there. So he goes out underneath, and he actually undercuts Stephon Diggs on that curl route. So that's where Josh is looking. He wants a quick game really quick on that curl flat. Diggs isn't open because Ingram is undercutting it, and there's 2 other defenders there. But I want you to watch Brown on the right side. His eyes are outside on Ingram because that's initially who his guy was going to be. As he vacates, now he's going to squeeze there. Same thing's happening on the other side. Dawkins. Dawkins right there has Phillips, right? So he kicks out wide and realizes, oh man, Phillips is coming inside. No one is accountable for this guy. There's no one there. Dawkins has to squeeze. This guy is held to Josh Allen. Now, I understand that Josh was looking to the field, trying to get the ball to Diggs, but technically the hot is that defender. They disguise it quite well. He didn't see it. And, you know, he tries doing Josh Allen things, throwing that guy off him, and the ball comes loose. And obviously, it's a big play, a momentum-changing play in the second half.
Yeah, this breathed new life into Miami as it put them up 24-20. They started to get back into this game in the second quarter, and then they take the lead right here in the third, and it could have been an even bigger momentum swing than it was. Yeah, you hit it on the head. I remember when we were looking at it in dots, Ingram peeling off really messes everything up for Josh because he's underneath Diggs right there, like you have him highlighted, so he can't go to Diggs. But then also because he's on top of Gilliam, Allen can't go to Gilliam. So by the time he comes back to the left side, he's just got Rowe. Yeah, he's got Rowe right in front of him. But again, that's you see that look up front and you know your protection and you know what's happening. Your first look should have been left. Like you need to look at that hot spot, especially to knowing that you're on the left hash and they're bringing that look from the boundary. Like it just emphasizes that part even more. You got to look to that spot. And that's something that Allen has been good at this year. And he did it against Miami in week 3 and identifying that
twice right out of half too, right?
Yes.
Like he was backed up. He did it twice. And one of them, he scrambled for a first down. Like I went back and looked. I'm like, does Miami pull this coming out of half every single game? That week 3 game they did. The week 15 game they didn't. So, but they sent those slot corners off blitzes and corners on blitzes, those cat blitzes coming out of half. It was interesting to see.
And then like you mentioned, you couple it with this is, live by the sword, die by the sword, Josh Allen. Instead of just being like, all right, cool, let me take the sack. He's like, you know what? No, I can make something out of this. I'm dead to rights, but let me shake off this safety and make a play. And instead the ball comes out, but again, it's hard to fault him because we've seen guys have him dead to rights and he just shakes him off and then goes and makes a play somehow. So you have that kind of compounds the error and the read from Josh. But again, it all starts with he's got to recognize that hot. And that's a piece too, right? When people, how come there weren't more hots baked into everything? And how come he didn't throw hot? Well, here's an example where he should have, and he did not.
Yeah. And
that could have gone for something.
Play.
There's no defenders out there.
Yeah, no, there's not. They have the numbers. They absolutely have the numbers there. 3/2. So they
Oh,
had the
geez.
numbers, and if he catches it, if somehow Josh isn't looking, because he's kind of looking up the seam initially.
Yeah,
Again,
he
he's
doesn't come
working
across.
right to left, so it makes sense.
Yes.
But if he could have gotten to Singletary, or at the very least, what he normally does, that pump fake. Usually he
Yes.
uses that pump fake, gets that guy up, and then he's able to squirt out and get it to Singletary. I mean, then we're talking, right? Then we're talking. But it doesn't happen. And in week 3 it worked, and in this game it didn't. So,
Yeah.
but there was a hot route built in, as Anthony said. So we're gonna move into the fourth quarter. This is that first deep shot to Gabriel Davis. What do you guys know? Stacked box, single high look, first and 10
What?
situation, 12 personnel, play action pass. What do you think's going to happen? Who do you think they're reading? It's a deep shot. Yes, it's a deep shot. They're reading a high low. They're trying to high low this guy. Bills run it all the time. And so they try to shoot it down the field, and he has time, man. He has time. What does this safety do? He slices, he cuts stuff on Diggs. Yeah, that makes sense. You can do that. But that's also why Josh Allen goes deep on this play. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe people don't agree with me here, but this double move by Gabriel Davis right there, he's got a step.
Yes.
If this is thrown out in front, this could be a touchdown, but it's underthrown, right? And it goes incomplete.
This is, I think, one where people see, Singletary underneath, or maybe even potentially Dawson Knox in the flats. But I think Singletary's the big one. Like, just dump it down to Singletary right there. Like, he's got all this space. And I recognize that. And I would have been very okay with that. Like, Singletary probably gets the first down. And if he can make a man miss or two, maybe he gets more than that. So I would have been okay with that. But again, you've got your receiver who has 2 or 3 steps on a corner to the outside. And unlike what we saw with John Brown earlier, Gabe Davis is on that red line. So he's giving Josh Allen space to make this throw.
Yeah.
So you've got, and if you're even, you're leaving. Look at that. Like he's got space. He's got a step on him. It's the execution. Like the decision, I would have liked to see the check down, especially in hindsight, but hindsight is 2020, whatever.
Yeah, and that decision was made already,
Correct.
right?
He's
you can
not
see the delivery starting.
Yep. He wants it. So even as Singletary's clearing, he's already looking to go downfield. But again, whereas the John Brown interception, we faulted the decision. I don't fault the decision that much here. It's the execution. Like this has to be a better ball from Josh Allen as you highlight Singletary's route out of the backfield.
We're working through the line there.
Yep. He works through the trash and he starts to clear. Also, good delayed blitz from Roberts to come up the gut there and really influence.
That's why Singletary's open. He kind of freelanced there, right? Like he shot the gap.
He shoots it, and now all of a sudden his spot is vacated. But like you said, Josh is already in his motion. This ball is going downfield. He's not seeing Singletary clear. And especially, too, he's not thinking that Roberts is going to come on this blitz. No. He's seeing Roberts drop, and he's like, okay, so even if Singletary releases,
everyone's manned up.
Boom, exactly.
This guy has to be on him.
In theory, everyone's covered.
Unless Holland is from depth, but that's not happening on this play.
No. And then so he sees Holland slice on Diggs, which, again, makes sense from Holland's perspective. The decision isn't bad to go to Gabriel Davis here. It's the execution. It's not a great ball from Josh. It's a little underthrown. And then even with it being underthrown, Gabe Davis could still make a play on this ball. He's got size and length on a smaller corner. Close. And he is so close. He almost mosses him, doesn't get it here, but then he almost gets it on the ricochet.
Unreal balance.
Still comes down with it. Yeah, and we've seen him make the unreal spectacular catches seem mundane. Like this
is just like that Jets game, right, dude? That Jets catch along the boundary a few years ago.
On the other boundary.
Yeah.
If we're looking at it from this camera angle, and so like you're thinking, oh, he could still come down with this ball, but the throw is a little underthrown. Gabe Davis isn't able to make a play. So this one comes down to the execution. It's not necessarily the decision making or the concept or the play call. It's just the execution. This isn't a bad read. This isn't a bad decision. It's just it's misexecuted. But again, as I'm going to continue to say, and I always say it, but again, Miami, they're okay to live with this. They're saying, cool, if you can complete a high percentage or a low percentage throw downfield, we'll give it to you. Granted, you're going to gain like 40 yards and that's going to suck, but we're going to play the numbers because we're trying to create explosives because we need to, because our starting quarterback's out and we're playing a third stringer.
Yeah, and this is the very next play. This one's interesting. I didn't draw up the diagram for this, but this one's interesting. So you have a 2x2 set, and because of the blitz, unfortunately, the guys have to stay in a block. So Dawson Knox is pulled out of a route. James Cook is pulled out of a route. I think he's actually picking up that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you only have 3 guys in a route, which sucks. But very much like the Patriots did to Marshall Faulk, I believe, years ago, they blitzed the Rams to keep Marshall Faulk in. So it's along those same lines, because like I talked about in that last play, maybe it was Holland that had the running back in the backfield. You guys don't believe me? Well, Holland has Singletary here, but because Singletary Cook, and this is that nice, decent pickup right there. Yes. But Holland has Cook in man coverage, but because he stays in the block, now he can kind of just chill, be a robber right there in the middle of the field. So there's only 3 guys in a route, which sucks, which is part of the reason why Josh throws it to deep to Gabriel Davis here. And this one, again, not that good of a play, decision, and throw. And again, I think this is on Josh. I think watch his hand signals. He's telling Diggs what to do. There's right there. He's doing that, like that same signal he gave earlier. I'll show you from the end zone angle. Watch. Did I miss it? Right there.
Go back a little bit.
Right there. So
looks like he's giving him the finger.
Yeah. So I think he's telling him to run that go route. So I think this is on Josh. But again, they only have 3 guys on a route because of that pressure. It's a 6-man pressure, which forces the running back and the tight end to stay in here so that Josh can try to push the ball down the field on 2nd and 10.
And this is what, again, if you're Miami, you're trying to dictate. So you get the Bills to keep in extra blockers that they necessarily don't need, because now they've got more blockers than there are rushers. So effectively, you've wasted 2, but basically 1 person in the potential route distribution. So now you have the advantage. I do really like that block from James Cook. This was one of 2 really good ones that he had. But so where are you going? Like you okay, let me take the vertical shot, because Diggs has nothing at the bottom of the screen.
I see it as a throwaway. That's exactly what I see.
He's throwing it up in it. And if Gabe gets to it, cool. If not, he's just living to fight another down, because there is nowhere to go here. I think this one, he, especially paired with everything we saw pre-snap, he's signaling to Diggs, he's signaling to Davis. He even, right before the snap, you can even see him like look and tell Cook, like, come to the right, block to the right. Yep. He's calling everything right here. And when he sees what happens post-snap, I think he's like, this isn't in the cards. Let me just chuck this downfield. And if Gabe catches it, cool. If not, I'm just kind of chucking it away safe here. Yes,
it's a low percentage throw, but it's also a safe throw because it's not getting turned over.
Yep. Jason says it right here. Like, it was the only safe place to throw the ball away. That's exactly right. Because again, sometimes you got to tip your cap to the opponent. Miami got him. Like, this is a good design. Allen didn't read it correctly. He got. So you live to fight another down. And that's why you see this play. Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let's see. Next play is another 6-man pressure. This is really, I like the route concept. I want to talk about Shakir in the slot to the top real quick. But this is one of their sacks. But we've seen this switch release concept to the top of the screen. I want to see them run it a little differently. I've harped on how the spacing on this play has been so bad right here. I want the wide receiver to not work to a landmark and then break back over the middle, because this is actually, it works quite well if run properly. But you can see, because Shakir, I like him as a yak guy, and he can do things with the ball in his hands, got good hands. But his route running and change of direction isn't the best. And you can see it takes him a while to kind of break back towards the middle. But if you watch as they're switch releasing and this guy has to work over the top, as soon as that guy commits to working over the top, break it back inside.
Yeah.
Break it back inside.
You can tell that he's like, okay, I take 5 steps, I get to 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, and then I break.
And now there's no separation. So that's my little nitpick of the play. But as you can see, pretty tight coverage. And to the bottom of the screen, watch Diggs as he's breaking inside on that switch release. So he's got Howard working over the top, and then Holland is just chilling. He's just waiting. So there's nothing there. And Holland is hanging out there because, again, he's got, I think, who's in the backfield? Hines. He's got Hines in the backfield. He stays in. So now I can just hang out to where Diggs is. And so Josh Allen sees a little gap, thinks he sees some daylight, but that closes quite quickly as Ingram and Sealer kind of close off that escape lane for Josh Allen. But we've seen Josh Allen break these type of plays and find that daylight more times than not, like way more times than not, right, Ant?
Oh, yeah, especially when that's been part of the whole reason why you don't play man coverage against Josh Allen, because if you're not sound in your rush lanes, he'll make you pay with his legs. Miami was very good at that all game. When Josh would try to step up in the pocket and escape through the A gap or the B gap, it was, and again, I think this is where playing an opponent for the third time comes in
Yes.
addition to you playing that opponent last year. They were very ready for Josh Allen's scrambling ability when they played these coverage. You could tell their rush patterns and their rush lanes. They have eyes on Josh Allen. You can see they're almost like waiting, and then as soon as he steps up, they pounce. You see it on this play. You see it on a multitude of plays. They're focused on attacking Josh Allen, but they attack him with proper angles and lanes. So they kind of choke him in that pocket. And even when he steps up, there's not a lot of space and they're ready for it. So as soon as he moves, they pounce. And you saw with regularity. So he didn't have those rush lanes, that scrambling ability against man coverage like you would see. I think this again ties into you have a team who's seen you for the third time and they're ready for what you do. They know your tendencies as an offense or as a player, and it played into their hand. In addition to, again, having a coverage advantage there with the blitz and forcing Hines to stay in. And that's something Miami did well too, right? Like here I have, Knox or the running back in man-to-man coverage, and then, they stayed in the block. Cool. Let me double Stephon Diggs, or let me just sit in the middle as a spy and just hang out in this spot right here and take away another possible read or a window. So,
and that's what the Dolphins scheme, again, it's a Bill Belichick, Brian Flores type scheme. Boyer comes from that coaching tree. And I mentioned those Holland plays where he's a deep safety, but he has a running back in the backfield. That is specific to their scheme. And it makes things difficult for a quarterback because, first of all, the first thing a quarterback looks at when he gets to the line of scrimmage is one or two high safeties, where they're at, who they're covering, if it's man coverage or if it's zone. That's who they're keying in on pre to post snap. And so if you have a guy that's showing up, in the secondary deep as a safety, but yet when the ball snaps, it becomes man coverage. He's not a deep half or a post player, but instead he has a guy in man coverage as a running back in the backfield. But because they send an extra guy, that running back stays in the block. Well, now you just picked up an extra defender to roam. And so you can't account for him. And it's hard to pinpoint even on film after the fact, let alone in real time, what that guy's going to do, where he's going to go, where he's going to be shadowing. He's that robber technique. Like it's difficult to decipher when you're on the field, let alone in film. It's hard. You have to watch the play several times to realize, okay, he's keying in on the running back. And as soon as Baker rushes and he blocks Baker, and then you see his eyes start to wander and, okay, where's Diggs? Are there any crossers coming? It's specific to that system, and it really messes with quarterbacks, and it messed with Josh Allen in this game and games in the past.
It's a credit to Boyer for, leaning into that idea. And it's also, again, a credit to a player who we've praised a lot in Javon Holland. Like even what they did in week 15, he would be spying Josh Allen. He'd be sitting there as the single high safety. And you'd be thinking, oh, okay, he's in single high coverage. And then, nope, he's coming down and he's the spy on Josh Allen. And you saw a couple times, especially in the third quarter, Allen would escape and think like, oh, man, I'm going to pick up this first down. And Javon Holland comes screaming down because you're not thinking, oh, okay, well, that post safety is the one who's spying me. Got it. Like you're not thinking that. And then you're trying to process it post snap. Nice comment here from Jason saying, I find it interesting that Josh seems to have such a quote unquote easy time with the Pats, but struggles against how the Finns run it, parentheses, using the word struggle while we still put up 34 points. But
no. And I said, my response was the Patriots don't have the athleticism that these Dolphins do. I mean, at every level,
speed, athleticism, even Christian Wilkins, who's a big bodied dude, is athletic. And then you go into the actual, the Jalen Phillipses of the world, Xavier Howard when he's healthy. Think about also too, Brandon Jones, one of their athletic, versatile safeties, who's been hurt. No, like they've really leaned into the versatility, athleticism piece, similar from a chess piece, jack of all trades perspective, similar to what the Patriots do with Marcus Jones and Kyle Duggar and McCourty and that whole squad. But they don't have the speed and the athleticism and the bite that the Dolphins defense does. And it presents problems, especially the more familiar they get with you.
What's funny too is, we're here gushing about the Dolphin scheme and Boyer's scheme. And I feel like I've seen a lot of comments from Dolphins fans that actually want to get rid of him. Right. And so, hey, please do. You should probably fire him like today. You know,
And McDaniel.
and
They're both
McDaniel. Yeah,
terrible. Get
yeah,
rid
yeah.
of them both.
Terrible coaches.
And you know
Terrible.
what? I'd probably blame Javon Holland. You should trade Javon Holland.
Yeah, please get
Just
rid of
get
him.
rid of him. He's
Yeah,
terrible. It's
he's
so
gonna be
funny.
expensive in a couple years anyways.
Yeah.
Like, just get rid of him.
You're not going to want to pay him like that's money on a safety. Crazy. I would never want to do that ever. Yeah, it's funny how you get into the different minds of different fan bases, and like you're outside team A and you're thinking, man, I really love like this player or this coach. And then you go inside the fan base and they're like, that player sucks. We hate this
Yeah.
coach. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
it's funny the different mindset when you're in on a team versus when you can potentially remove yourself and, take a look at things from an outside perspective. And now that perspective, whether outside or inside, it shifts as we start to wrap up this episode. And we're past the Miami Dolphins. The Bills, again, win in that super wild card round, 34-31. There were some ugly moments at times, but on the whole, they created some explosives. They executed. We didn't even touch the defensive side of the ball that had some nice plays. I'll be looking in the defense a bit tomorrow on disguise coverage. But Eric, who now the fates have woven a story that places the Bills against the Cincinnati Bengals again, and the Bengals come to town in this divisional round. As we potentially look forward to this game, give us some quick thoughts from yourself on what you're looking for in this game. Is there one player? Is there one side of the ball? Is there one specific matchup? Is there a scheme piece you're focusing on? What are you focusing on when it comes to, the prep and the preview for Bengals Bills?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna lean on right now just our prep going into the matchup, a few weeks ago, and that started with how to defend Joe Burrow.
Yep.
I think it started with those 3-man rushes that we talked about. How often the Bills will run it, I don't know, but I think that's a start. The other thing I want to talk about is the secondary, man, because we didn't talk about the defense in this episode, but the Bills' defensive film, especially in the secondary, was quite promising. And especially when you talk about guys like Trey White, Kaiir Elam, that approach, if you add Elam into the lineup and he gets a majority of the snaps at corner, the Bills can do some interesting things. Not that Dane Jackson can't. He's more of a leverage guy and processing route combinations, but he doesn't have the athleticism that Elam does. And Elam makes some plays on the ball as well. So I thought Elam's game against the Dolphins was promising. And if put into the lineup with Trey White, Taron Johnson, and those guys, which I think they'll need some of that athleticism, especially because they don't have Micah Hyde back there. So they'll need a little more athleticism when they and call a little more man coverage. The Bills have called more single high coverages since Trey White's been back. So it's already been shifting in that direction. They're up in like 33 percentile when we're talking like cover 3, and they went up 3% in cover 1 since Trey White returned. So I think Elam getting more playing time, depending on Dane Jackson, it will be interesting because not that I want one-on-one matchups versus those wide receivers, but you got to have all the tools like available for this game. You better have your best strategy, your best players, your best shot, because this offense is freaking talented. And I know the offensive line's banged up, but Joe Burrow's sharp. He can get rid of that ball quickly. And if you don't have tight coverage in that quick game, bye-bye. Those guys are going to score some points.
They got quarterback position. They got talent on the periphery, and you're in a win or go home scenario. If you slip up, you don't come through with the right squad or the right game plan. Yeah, it can be curtains for you quick. I love the, real quick, the points that you mentioned. Oh, and Jason hits on it, saying this was the strongest I've seen the secondary at the catch point. We always criticize them for not making plays on the ball. They were amazing at it this game. Trey has the punch through the hands on Waddle with the recovery speed. We see the one over the middle to Waddle where Taron Johnson waits for Waddle to bring it down and punches through it. We saw the interception from Kaiir Elam. We saw the breakup on Gesicki from Kaiir Elam. And even, I know Elam was the star. Before Dane Jackson went out, he had a lot of sticky reps against Tyreek Hill and Waddle. Like the secondary really brought their A game in terms of what they were doing. And they're going to need to bring it again. Chase and Higgins and Boyd and even Irwin has become a problem now when they use him. And Hayden Hurst has turned into
downs,
that. Yes, especially on third downs. And Hayden Hurst, people forget how athletic he was at South Carolina, and he was a first-round pick for the Baltimore Ravens.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, they have all those weapons. And when the Bills, again, They were playing the Dolphins, but the Dolphins have some talent at their skill positions.
Yes.
And the Bills weren't scared to go to man coverage.
No.
And I'm not just talking with their corners, slot corners, and safeties. I'm talking with the linebackers too. Edmonds was matched up with tight ends and running backs, vice versa with Matt Milano. Like, they weren't
Milano
scared
got
to go.
matched up against Waddle on a man-to-man coverage
Yes.
at one point. Like, they
So,
showed no fear. They were bringing it.
right. And it's a good test. Miami was a good test when we're talking defense. I know they didn't have the quarterback there, but the speed and that type of, again, scheme that they don't really often want to play, that was a good test, playing Miami in that wild card round. So I think that's going to be the fun matchup, man. Do they call a little more man coverage so that, again, to prevent that quick game, to close those windows, to give these guys an opportunity to make plays at the catch point?
Yeah, it's going to be one of the major, chess pieces and one of the
Man,
major.
I'm excited.
I know.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited,
That
but
just
I'm
got
like
me
so
amped up.
extremely nervous. Like it's a great matchup, and it's such a fun piece as we continue to move forward. And we're thankful to have another week of Bills football here in the Cover One Film Room. We're also thankful to our sponsor of this show, Nickel City Cigars. You can find their website in our episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or any one of the podcasting apps or platforms. Go check them out. We love the partnership with them. We love their new age take on the cigar game. We love that they have an arcade inside. We love that they have local, Buffalo craft brews and different kinds of liquors, and the ability to order online, pick up in store, have it delivered to you. They just take a really cool approach to the cigar game, which is a very old world type of aspect, and they put a new age spin on it, and they really niche down into it like we have here at Cover One. So we're tremendously proud of our partnership with them. They're, veteran owned, which is also another cool piece and advantage to them. Use the promo code Cover One, whether on their website or in store, get 20% off of your order when you do that. So major shout out to Nickel City Cigars. And one more shout out. Gambling is a huge piece of sports now, whether you're betting on the Bills, whether you're betting on whatever sport you choose to. And part of the advantage of having this platform is we get really cool partnerships that we can pass on to you folks who watch the show and join us here. So without further ado, here's Mr. Greg Thompson of Cover One talking about our partnership with BetUS and the advantages that it can provide you.
Hey guys, Cover One is excited to announce our new partnership with BetUS. BetUS has a live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business, and an easy deposit and withdrawal process with the fastest payouts in the industry. Our loyal Cover One fans get a choice between two exclusive offers, either a 125% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,500 or a free $50 bet with no deposit required. Just use promo code COVER1 on the links provided in the show description below. BetUS, where the game begins.
I have that thing almost memorized in my head. I was like, BetUS, where the game begins. Again, use that promo code, take advantage. The online gambling industry has just boomed, and so we're really proud of that partnership that we're able to potentially offer you folks. Eric, what would be really cool? I say it every week. Oh man, look at crazy.
What is that?
We have this awesome subscription thing called One Pass, and you can get like members only content and further access to the team. And just this seems really cool. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we have One Pass. Our insiders have access to our premium content. Some of that's written content, behind the scenes content. We have the Cover One glossary where you have access to a video library that Kendall, Anthony, and I put together, different terms, definitions, lingo that we use in some of these film rooms. So there are definitely some benefits to our insiders, and it's $57 for the year. It's some cool stuff. And the best part, Anthony, everyone talks about it. It's the Slack channel. It's the community we built, our family. When you sign up, you get access to the Slack channel, and we talk football in there all day. There are channels for analytics. There are
fantasy football,
mock drafts, fantasy football. So we couldn't do this without you guys, without your support. Become an insider, help us out, become family. It really is family. You guys, we're in there every day talking to these guys. And so we appreciate everyone tuning in for this breakdown. Went a little long, but it was fun, man. It was freaking fun. Chris, thank you. He says, great breakdown. Eric and Anthony, time well spent. So yes, it was long, but I hope we added the context to the hot topics that were talked about on social media, in the mainstream media, to your friends at the bar. Like, that's what we want to do. We want to add context, and we're not just going to show you clips out, broadcast footage. No, we're going to show you coaches' film. We're going to break it down for you. You know, we had some statistics, some advanced statistics, courtesy of PFF, True Media, SIS, all these different tools that we are able to use and provide the in-depth content that you saw tonight wouldn't be available if you guys didn't support the show with likes, comments, shares, subs, but also becoming an insider, get to cover one.football to help us out, to be a part of this community. And it's something that we're very proud that we built and are able to do these sort of things for the average fan looking to learn more about this game.
Yeah, literally everything that we do would not be possible without the support that we get from you folks in every which way. So, to echo Eric's sentiment, thank you so much for any and every ounce of support you folks show. And yeah, there's been a lot of water cooler talk since Monday, and just every day I even had my mom called me and she was like, what do you think about Josh Allen going deep so much? And I was like, Mom, not you too. That's just where it's gone. And it's you can't, it's out of the box at this point. And so exactly your point, Eric, we wanted to dive into it, and you can't dive into it by just showing one or two plays. You have to put the whole picture together and put the whole puzzle together. And that's what this episode was. So, something really important. We went a little longer than normal here on the film room, but we really wanted to address some of the false narratives and inaccuracies that are being, put out about the Bills' offensive performance from the game against the Miami Dolphins. If you folks enjoyed this content, like Eric said, please drop a like on this video. It sincerely goes a tremendously long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So please and thank you for that. Please subscribe to the Cover One Film Room. Subscribe to the Cover One channel. We have you covered every single day of the week with a multitude of Buffalo Bills shows and breakdowns and just everything to help you become a better Bills fan, more knowledgeable about the team and the sport of football as a whole. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, please rate and review and subscribe there as well. Feel free to leave a comment. We appreciate you folks more than you will ever know. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well, staying safe, be kind to one another, take care of one another. If you are going to the game this Sunday, look out for one another. Try not to get too rowdy or too raucous, or maybe get really rowdy and really raucous. Make it a tough atmosphere for Bengals fans and the Bengals as a team. Do whatever you can to do your 111th and help bring this win home within the mode of safety. I'm nervous, but excited. I have a lot of emotions going on right now, but until next week when we break down Bills Bengals in the Cover One Film Room, this has been another episode of the Cover One Film Room. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Eric Turner, for all of you folks who joined us in the chat, we sincerely thank you very much. You guys were absolutely tremendous. Thank you to those who watched later on a post live view. We appreciate you. Enjoy the week, enjoy the weekend, Godspeed, and as always,